Hi, I'm Eoin Hughes.
And I'm Tommy Hughes.
And I just ran Frankfurt Marathon in 2 hours, 30 seconds.
And I'm the father. I'm 59 years old. I ran the Frankfurt Marathon in 2 hours, 27 minutes, 52 seconds for a combined father and son Guinness World Record.
And you're listening to the Physical Performance Show
with Brad Beard.
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beard. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, brought to you by Pogo Physio and Physio Cram. I'm Brad Beer, sports physiotherapist and exercise scientist by trade and training, and founder of Pogo Physio. Each week, we'll aim to share with you the latest and greatest inspiration and information designed to help you perform at your own physical best. We do this across a range of different episodes, including featured performers, expert editions, interest editions, and coaches' corners. And on this week's episode, I share with you an incredible story, an interest edition around a unique father and son. This is the story of an incredible Irish running father and son, Tommy and Eoin Hughes. Now, what makes this father and son combo so unique and amazing is that Tommy and Eoin recently set the Guinness World Record for the combined time for father-son crossing a marathon finish line. This was done at the 2019 Frankfurt Marathon just several weeks ago, where, get this, Tommy, 59 years of age, set a world age record running a staggering 2:27.52, and Eoin, who has just been in the sport of running for 3 years, clocked an incredible 2:31.30 on his marathon debut. The combined time, 4:59.22. And this is the story of Tommy Hughes, a 1992 Irish Olympian in the marathon, a former Melbourne Australia Marathon winner and multi-marathon winner who has been a lifelong runner. And this is the tale of Eoin, who, through the bulk of his adult life, preferred parties, some drinking and some cigarettes over running shoes. There is so much you're going to take from this week's interest edition. This is my conversation with record-setting Eoin and Tommy Hughes from Northern Ireland. Tommy and Eoin Hughes, welcome to the Physical Performance Show, just 5 days after setting a Guinness World Record for the combined full marathon time of father and son, with a startling 4:59.22, with father Tommy, you running a 2:27.52, an age group world record, and Eoin, you running a 2:31.30 with years of development ahead. So, gentlemen, firstly, congratulations. Secondly, welcome.
Thank you very much, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
And we should paint a picture. You are physically sitting where in the world, and what's the day looking like?
Well, physically, we're sitting in Northern Ireland, just in the north side of Ireland, but the weather, it's mild. It's like 13 degrees centigrade, but a bit drizzly, rainy. It's good running weather, actually, because it's mild and it keeps you, the rain keeps you cool as well. So, yeah, it's good.
So it's rainy. That must be and mild weather. That must be the secret of what's been a lifelong running career of success, Tommy?
It can get very bitter cold in the wintertime, but mostly through the year it's pretty good. So just keep going with that.
And I think we should paint a picture at the front of this time together. And it seems like the very incorrect way to start any conversation is to ask ages, but I think this really needs to be highlighted. So, Eoin, you are the son of Tommy, who is an Irish Olympian in the marathon in the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. So, Eoin, your age, and then Tommy, your age.
I'm 34. 35 coming in January, so I'll soon be in the veteran category myself.
Tommy?
Yeah, well, I'm 59. and that record that I set in Frankfurt was for a 59-year-old. But I set the record earlier in Rotterdam, 2:30:15. So I wanted to try and get under 2 hours 30 if possible, and break my own record for a 59-year-old. But next year I'll be 60, and if I can run under 2 hours 30, that will be 5 decades where I've run under 2 hours 30. I don't think anybody has ever done that before.
Absolutely incredible. I mean, you ran a 2:27:52 just 5 days ago, and next year you're heading over to Canada, I believe, for the World Masters Games, and looking to break a host of records over there. But you've still got a good 2 minutes to play with to go under that 2:30, so you must be confident, Tommy.
Yeah, I'm very confident because I've only actually been training for a year. I've had problems with my health. I had a gland which was pumping or taking too much calcium out of my bones and pumping it into my bloodstream, and it was only diagnosed 2 years ago, and I had the operation to remove this gland in my neck August last year, and since then it's given me a new lease of life. I don't know how long I've had the condition, but I'm just going with it and going along and training hard. I just know how to train and how to get the best out of myself.
So, I mean, there's been a lifelong career there and passion for running, Tommy. You mentioned there the medical condition, I believe it was hyperparathyroidism, which
that's right.
Sat there in the background and was part of the your fatigue state, and I believe some depression at some point, and also just feeling weak and lethargic. So it must have been a new lease on life after a life of high performance running to feel like that was returned to you once the diagnosis was made and the corrective surgery done.
That's correct, because I came back to the sport when I was 48. I'd left the sport, and I'm an electrician, a self-employed electrician, so I've been employed for 7 days a week working away from home, and I came back to sport in 2008 and had a go at the Belfast Marathon, which I had won in 1988 and 1998. So I thought, well, I'll have a go at 2008, but the Kenyans were there, so I wasn't going to win it. But I came sixth in 2:28, and then I decided, that's not too bad. And I look at the times for the over 50s, and I noticed nobody's run under 2 hours 30 for an over 50, so that's what I targeted towards. It gave me a kind of a new lease of life, and I just took that and ran with that type of thing.
What year was that, Tommy?
2008, when I ran Belfast Marathon.
So 2008, you were looking then at going sub 2:30, and then here we are in 2019, and you just went 2:27:52 at 59 years of age. So clearly you've got a bit to teach all of us, including myself, about how to get the best out of whatever athletic talent we may have. So we want to explore that. Tommy, I'm just going to jump over to Eoin for a moment. Eoin, as you said, you're 34, turning 35 in January. What was it like? And we'll jump back over to your father's story, Tommy's Olympic out in there shortly. But what was it like growing up in a household of such a talented, focused, passionate runner as a child? Did you feel any pressure to be involved in running?
No, not really. To be honest, I knew getting to the Olympics, and I knew my dad was a very good runner, and I appreciated that there. But it's not really until I started running myself, whenever I turned like 30, 31, I started running, did I realise what his accomplishments actually were, how good he actually was, and what he done was, he ran 2:13 before, and that's just madness. It's just I never realised how good he was until I started running myself. So I knew everybody looked up to him and stuff whenever I was younger, and he was a really good runner, so that was good.
And Eoin, you only came to running quite late in life, in your 30s, and at 34 you already achieved some incredible times, a 68-minute half marathon. And what's your current 10K PB?
It's 30:51 around a couple of months ago.
Yeah, so clearly there's the lineage. You can see the bloodline at work with the running talent and genes, which does make me wonder, Tommy and Eoin, how far back does this running prowess go in the family tree?
Well, it started with me. I just loved sports from when I was really small, and I got married when I was 21, so I was putting on the weight, and I thought, well, I'll join the local football club, which was a GAA club, and see if I can take the weight off just playing football. And then I thought, well, I was on the reserve team and I wanted to get on the main team, so I thought I'd go running with my brother-in-law and see if I get the weight off. And it turned out I was a better runner than a footballer, and just everything basically took off from there. And I never thought I would ever get to the Olympics, but it just how the progression, it gets into your system and you just keep going with it and just improving and improving. And as long as you keep improving, I think you'll always keep going at it. And even if you have setbacks, you still keep coming back at it and you'll keep improving again.
I mean, you make it sound so easy and straightforward. Just keep improving, keep improving. I had to smile when I read, Tommy, as you said, you found your way into running through that. That means running around as a footballer initially, but you ran your first marathon, I believe, off only 3 or 4 very mild, maybe 4 or 5 mile runs, and you came out and went, I believe, like a 3:01:30 or thereabouts. Then you got a bit more informed and serious and went back and dropped 26 minutes off it for your second marathon. So can you take us through that little drop in time?
Yeah, basically I was like running 4 miles 3 times a week, so that's 12 miles a week. So that wasn't enough at all. But I didn't know any better. It was just the start of the running boom in the 1980s. So I ran Belfast Marathon. I was going well up till the usual crack. I was going well up to 20 mile, and then the wheels came off, and I struggled for the last 6 mile. But I ran 3 years, and I thought, well, if I did a bit more training, I would get quicker. And I trained harder for the next one, and it was the All-Ireland Marathon in Letterkenny in County Donegal, and I ran 2 hours 35, and I go, okay, that's not too bad. So the next one was the Derry Marathon a year later, and I started training it harder and harder, and I ran 2:24:24 to win it, and just everything progressed from there. It was just a matter of building the training up to actually, with the obsession with the training, I kind of went up to 140 mile a week, but I was just breaking down with injuries and all, so I backed it off to 100 mile a week and held it at that. But you learn from your own body and your own progress to kind of listen to your body and progress from there.
So you hit up to 140 miles per week, and you mentioned, Tommy, you were breaking down. What injuries were you incurring at that stage? And what age were you at this stage too, Tommy? Sorry?
I was in 24, 25, 26, so it was just basic injuries. It wasn't really anything major until I had a major one just the lead up to the Olympics in 1992, where I was in the form of my life. I'd ran 2:13:59 in Marrakesh in Morocco in January, and I was in the form of my life. And then next thing I got a stress fracture in my foot, and the doctor says, no, you're not going to be ready for the Olympics, you're not being recovered in time. But I just wouldn't say no, so I got on a static bike, and I kept the cardiovascular system going, but the muscles I couldn't go because I was on crutches, so I lost a lot of training from there. But I got to the Olympics, and I ran in the Olympics. I finished the Olympics, and that was my main goal in the Olympics, to run for Ireland and to run finish the Olympics in the stadium in Barcelona.
And that was 1992, and what an amazing Olympic Games it was, with that stadium finish on top of the mountain or the hill.
Yeah.
The irony is the time you ran 5 days ago was, I believe, quicker than the time you ran at the Olympics because of your interrupted preparation through that stress fracture.
Right.
It must have been an emotional moment to be representing Ireland and crossing that line, knowing that it was far from your physical best. You're a 2:13 PB marathoner, and here you were crossing the line. What was your finish time in Barcelona that year in 1992?
I think it was 2:33.
Yeah.
But as I say, I'd lost so much training, And I know for a fact that there was a stadium just below the main stadium, whereas if you finished outside a certain time, which I think was 2:45, they were directing you into that stadium because the main stadium was this closing ceremony. Closing ceremony was after the marathon, so the stadium was packed. So I said to myself, well, I'm not going to be finishing in an empty stadium. I want to finish in the main stadium with it packed. So I'll never forget for the rest of my life to run into the stadium and the stadium packed and running around and looking up in the big screen and seeing me coming round the corner and the finishing straight and just finishing it. It's just unbelievable.
Wow. I mean, what was going through your head?
I was just ecstatic because I'd made it to the finish after the tribulations that I had through the stress fracture and all. I made it to the finish, and I could have, absolutely blew to smithereens earlier on and not finished at all. But just to get there and across the line was my main aim. The Irish Runner magazine said John Tracy was one of the runners. Andy Rowan, he dropped out of the race, and they said in the magazine afterwards, Tommy Hughes seems to be the only one that seemed to be smiling when he crossed the line. And that was the reason, because just to finish was what I wanted to do.
Yeah, off a limited preparation. What a great story. And Eoin, you would have been circa 7, 6, 8 or something like that. Were you there in Barcelona that day, or were you home in Northern Ireland?
Yeah, we were home in Northern Ireland. From what I do remember, I can remember the support of the town, as we live in a pretty small town, but the support around it, there was even thing that always sticks in my head, there was a little fridge magnet that had Rock On Tommy that was being sold in the town. Just small things like that there is what I remember. But I can just remember this whole town getting behind them. And
then following Barcelona, Tommy, you've won numerous marathons around the world, Melbourne being one of them. What year was your victory in Melbourne, Australia?
Melbourne was 1988 and around 2:18:44. And the race director there, I just have to mention that the race director was Ted Paulin, and he looked after me really, really well. And I don't know if he's still involved with athletics. I haven't been in touch at all, but I remember it started out in Frankston and finished it at St Kilda Arts. It was a point-to-point course, and I really enjoyed it as well. Just to, because I was coming from a small background, and I got an invite to go to Australia to run this marathon, and then to win it was another experience again.
Did you have a nickname by this stage, having had international success, this Irishman?
Yeah, well,
there must have been nicknames that you had, Tommy.
Yeah, well, I have the nickname. When I won the Marrakesh Marathon for the first time, I was called the Marrakesh Express, and that's what I've been dubbed since.
You still hear people calling it at the minute, even at the end of races, race commentators would come out with, "Here comes the Marrakesh Express."
Oh, brilliant. And Eoin, have you adopted a nickname yet?
No, I haven't really, no.
Marrakesh Express Junior doesn't quite have the same ring, so we'll have to get a bit more creative. A question just on reflection, Tommy, before we talk about this combined marathon and half marathon concept and where it was birthed for both of you gentlemen. But Tommy, you've been competing. Two things that spring to mind. Firstly, most people retire from competitive running at some stage. As I went back and looked through some of your chronology, it just seems like you never really retired. Is that am I reading between the lines okay there?
No, you're not, because I never really retired. No intention retired. I enjoy running for the fitness fact, but I'm a very competitive person, so anytime I'm running, I just want to get better and better, and then the competitiveness kicks in. So I actually have never retired now.
What would you say to the runner, Tommy, is noticing a decline in performance, some of the science around aging runners, which we all are every day of our lives, is, a decline in VO2 max of circa 7% every 10 years, a reduction in cardiac output, all these cardiovascular things that change, muscle output, etc. People can get quite depressed and feel like they want to cling on to their PBs and their best. So what advice would you give to runners, me being one who, you sort of go, am I behind my best days? Or are they still out in front? And how do I reconcile that and not just throw the hands in the air?
Well, really, it's what way you want to look at the running. If you want to run to keep fit, then it's no problem at all. But if you want to run compete, you're going to have to put the training, and you've got to sacrifice a lot of things to do. And I do sacrifice a lot of things to compete at the highest. So it's a lot of dedication, which if you want to compete. But as a recreational fitness runner, then it shouldn't be a real problem if you want to go out and enjoy. And it's a social thing as well, and meet up with people, enjoy running with people, and just enjoy being fit and the camaraderie with the whole thing. So it's really the means to an end, whichever way you want to go. But if you want to be dedicated and you want to go fast times, you have to put in the work.
Yeah, there's no shortcuts.
No.
And Owen, you've been on a great rise with your PBs, or great decline with your times technically, but rise with your achievements. Owen, what was it like just 5 days ago running Frankfurt with your father? Your reflection on your Instagram post was, it wasn't quite the run that you had planned for yourself, and very few 34-year-olds, Owen, would run a 2:31 and have their father come a few minutes home in front of them. Probably the only man in the world that has to sort of reconcile that. What are the emotions like? Obviously you're thrilled. You realise you've both just smashed a combined marathon Guinness Book of World Records record. So what were your emotions like? How do you reconcile the disappointment of your own run to some degree for what you'd set yourself?
I set out to run faster. I was hoping to run 2:25-ish, and I set out with that intention. And as my first marathon, it was my first real go at a marathon, so I didn't really know what to expect. So whenever I got to 19, 20 miles, I started to suffer. I started to slow down. And I was running, I was just trying to get to the finish, and with about 3 miles to go, my dad came up on my side and just sort of gave me a nudge and says, "Come on, you can do this." And he just flew past me. And at that point, I knew what sort of time he was on for. I knew what time I should get home in. So I knew that the Guinness World Record was still within reach, well within reach. So that sort of brought me home. I just started pushing it, right? Just get to the finish line, get to the finish line. And yes, I ran 2:31:30, but there's more there, and got the Guinness World Record out of the way now. Hopefully we'll go next year again in marathon and use the experience to get a lot faster.
So that was your debut marathon?
Yeah.
Wow, a 2:31 debut's very impressive, extremely impressive. And so what breakdown? You would set 2:25 for yourself, Owen. What target were you going for, Tommy?
I was, in the back of my head, the world record for over 55 is 2:25:56. In the back of my head, I was thinking about that, but not. I know it's a tough one, a really tough one. So I was going to go through halfway and see where I was halfway. So I went through halfway in 74:12, and I thought, no, that one's not going to be on the day. So I switched ideas, and I just wanted to run under 2 hours 30, as much under 2 hours 30 as I could. So my second half was 1 hour 73:40, which brought me home quicker than the first half. So I was really pleased. I'd done all my training, everything was working out. I'd done what they call the bleed out, where you deplete your energy, like I ran a 20 mile the Monday before I went to the race to deplete my energy, then switched to protein. I ate protein for 3 days, which is a very tough thing to do because you're not getting any energy from the protein. So you're depleting your energy even more. So, but the third day you're running like you're hit the wall in the marathon. That's what you're running like. Then you switch to carbohydrates for the next 3 days in the build-up, which means the energy level goes higher than normal, which gets you after 20 mile in the Frankfurt Marathon. That's when I thought, yep, that's me. I'm there. I'm ready to go. So I was running really strong, and it definitely worked for me. So
well, it was a 32-second negative split on your side there, Tommy, and you mentioned, I think you termed it the bleed out. Is that bleed out? Was that correct? Something that you'd used through your running career? I mean, Owen's here running his debut, and at that point, 5 days ago, what would have that been? Your 100th marathon or something like that, Tommy?
Yeah, it's over 100 marathons. And I've only used that bleed out. I've only used it twice, really, in my career. It's a tough one to do. Lots of people these days are using gels and stuff that kind of ticks the same thing, but to me, it isn't the same thing. And I think if you do it too often, the body kind of recognize what you're up to, and it kind of reevaluates type of thing, so it doesn't really work as much. But it's just cheating your body, really.
So who put you onto that, Tommy?
Oh, well, that's reading old magazines when I was young, and people did that in the younger days, and it's a severe way of building up to the marathon, because your mind kind of thinks that you're no energy at all. You're going to stand at the start line with no energy at all. So it's a tough one. Psychologically, it's very tough to do, as well as physically, because you're running yourself. And the first 3 days of the depletion, you're running yourself into the ground, really. So that's tough to do. I wouldn't recommend it too much, because the body gets used to what you're doing, and then it'll not work at all. And then your mind is the strongest part of your running. And if your mind's not strong, then you're not going to run a strong marathon.
And just to be clear, you do how many days of each? You do how many days depletion, and on what sort of cycle?
Yeah, well, Monday, me and my son went out for a run, and I wanted to involve him in the run, but I wanted to do 20 mile. Well, actually, I wanted to do 18, but I decided to do 20. And then as soon as I got back home, I started eating protein, which is fish, whatever protein is, chicken, eggs, all the rest. I ate that for the rest of that day, Tuesday, Wednesday night, I decided, right, that's me done. I'm switching to carbohydrates. So I switched to carbohydrates then on Wednesday night. Then I ate carbohydrates on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then it didn't really matter the last day if you're mixing it up, because you're away in Frankfurt, you didn't know what kind of food you were getting anyway. So we went for pasta all the time in Frankfurt just to make sure we're fueling up. But that's basically it. And
then during the marathon, Eoin and Tommy, what was your fuel source, Eoin?
Myself, I had the option to leave my drinks out to get them set out on the tables. I chose to use that option, which didn't work out too well. As I say, the top elites maybe had a table with maybe 3 or 4 drinks on each table, whereas the sub-elites, as we were called, we had a big, huge table with maybe 100 bottles, different people's bottles sitting on this table. So to find your own bottle going past was a nightmare. So that didn't really work out for me. I had a couple of gels with me, so basically I got a couple of my drinks and used a couple of gels, and that was my fuel for the race.
And Tommy, how did you fuel yourself during the race?
Yeah, well, I'm different, because I didn't want to mess up my rhythm, so I had 2 gels with a belt under my running vest, and I took the first gel at halfway, 13 mile or so, and then I took the second one at 20 mile, and in between I was just drinking water and making sure I got enough water on board, so there was no break up in rhythm. I noticed a guy running, and he was running in front of me, and next thing he came back and went to the desk, or went to the table to grab his drink, and I said to myself, I'm going to see him later on. And lo and behold, there he was, because you lose so much energy breaking your stride, coming back and going forward and back and forward, that you have to get into a rhythm and keep that going to the finish no matter what.
Yeah, well, you executed beautifully. And I must ask, where did this combined father-son record attempt come from? In September, you made a run at the half marathon combined record in Belfast and missed it by just 20 seconds. So What planted the seeds to go after, or seed I should say, to go after this?
It was actually a few years ago. It was Marathon Talk. It was another podcast, Marathon Talk. We're actually talking about my dad's achievements at Nottingham Marathon. What year was that?
That was 2010.
2010. So he was 50 then, and he ran at 2:29 or something around that. And the Marathon Talk podcast actually joked in the podcast saying, imagine if he had a son, how quickly he could go, or something along those lines. And I sort of just looked into it then, but I wasn't running at that time. But then it's just sort of been in my head all the time. And then once my time started to come down, and my dad was getting back into running, and he's just a machine anyway, so his times are always going to be there. It just became possible. In my head, it was possible to do. So the half marathon, it was a bit tougher. We just missed out. But the marathon, we knew it was well within our capabilities. We probably could go a lot quicker in the future together, hopefully.
So it wasn't on either your radar, Tommy, or your radar, Eoin. It was a Marathon Talk podcast. It was just mentioned, and someone must have fed that onto you, did they?
Yeah, well, my dad's a big fan of that podcast, so he would listen to it all the time. So it was someone that mentioned it to me a long time ago. But as I say, it was never really a possibility at that stage. It just recently it turned into a possibility.
Because you weren't running at that stage. What were you doing?
Not much. I played a little bit of five-a-side football, maybe once or twice a week. Sort of just keep me fit. But I smoked and I drunk and I partied a bit. But no, running was never in my radar at that time.
And growing up, did you have any success as a junior in cross country or anything like that, Eoin, or you never competed?
Never competed. My school would, whenever I was growing up, would be just more towards Gaelic football. Running's not really a thing within my school and the school that I went to, so I never really had the opportunity really to run within school. I played a bit of football with them, but I was never that great at it, so didn't really take it on.
And now seeing your rapid improvement, and you know you're posting some very impressive times, do you have any regrets that you didn't kick it off sooner, or you're just happy to be into it now and you know, go in for it?
Oh, no, there's times I always think, if I had started when I was 20, what sort of times could I have run? Where could I have got to? But there's not much I can do about that now. So I've grew up, got my family. There are 3 boys now, so I've that behind me. So now I can concentrate a little bit more on the running. So we can still see where we can get to.
We don't want to set that record too high in case Eoin and his son wants to break it later on. Never I'm past and gone.
Well, I believe you know, you must be inspiring the next generation too. Obviously, Eoin yourself as the dad and granddad, Tommy, who they must your sons Eoin must think your father's just a hero.
Yeah, they're more embarrassed whenever they see me out running, you know. But no, my youngest one, he's really into the running. He loves it. So. Yeah, they are. They're inspired. They loved me being away, and I've been in the local newspapers and stuff, and they love seeing me in the newspapers and that sort of stuff. So yeah. What
would you like them to take? What lesson would you like them to take through watching you and your father, Tommy, achieve this world record? What would be the take home you'd like them to take? Just that the hard work pays off. Basically, you know, if you put your mind to something, look what can happen. You know, as I say, I wasn't running 5 years ago, and now I'm running pretty solid times. Just with a bit of hard work, dedication, what you can do. Hard work pays off. And Tommy, what message would you like this to send to your grandsons, Owen's 3 boys?
Well, basically, it's about the same thing. I think, like I set the world record this year for a 59-year-old in the 5K, 10-mile, half marathon. But out of all them, this is the best one. I think for me and my son, for the world record in the Guinness Book of World Records, is the best one yet. And it'd probably be above anything that I do from now on, because it's a father and son thing. It's not just an individual thing. It's me and my son together setting the world record. It's unbelievable. I can't believe it myself.
2 lads from Northern Ireland, and I mean, running is such a solo sport. So I think anytime any runner of any level gets to share it somehow with other runners, it is quite special.
Yeah, it's like a team, a father and son team. That's what it was, you know. So we done it as a team, and I think we can improve on it as well. So here's to next year.
The Marrakesh Express Senior and Junior. Here they go. I actually was amused. I thought it was outstanding. One of the media outlets reported what you did at one point there, Tommy, as the most outstanding Irish sporting achievement perhaps of 2019. Took place, quite in the article, in the Netherlands when 59-year-old Irish runner Tommy Hughes ran 2:30.15. That was at the Rotterdam Marathon. However, you eclipsed that with a 27.52 just 5 days ago. Tommy, you mentioned the running boom in the 1980s. I think this would just be really interesting. What was the running boom like? I mean, people that have come to the sport more recently, like your son Eoin, what was that running boom like? I was born in 1980. I've read about it since, but it seems like it was just a real explosion, and people, from what I can gather, were training quite hard.
Yeah, well, the thing about it, it went from nothing to people training hard, racing hard, and at that time you were racing the same people, so you're always improving all the time, and there was nothing else distracting you. Like today's society is everything's going on, social media, the whole lot. There's so much distractions these days, but in them days it was hardcore, and people went out to race and to try and improve all the time. This up now is more a social thing, out to keep fit, which is brilliant. I have to say it's brilliant. People going out and to keep fit and have a social chat and all the rest, and that's even better now. But you've still got a hardcore of people up the front of the races doing their dedicated training to improve as well. But most people are in it just for the fitness, which is brilliant. In
observations of marathons in 2019 compared to 1980, what would be one or two observations you'd make with contemporary marathons or running events?
A good example is I ran London in the 80s and I ran, I think it was 2:19. I kind of blew up in it, but I ran 2:19 for 55th. Then I came back there 2010 or 2011. I ran it and I ran 2:29 and it was 53rd. So like I improved 2 spaces in a slower time. So that kind of an example of the old days and the new days, And
what do you put that down to?
I think, as I say, in the old days it was out, people were in it to race and they're racing all the time, whereas people are in it now to enjoy themselves and get fit, more so than to race. So a lot of people go, in the old days, were just out to hurt, to race and to beat whoever was next to them, whereas now it's more a social thing.
Yeah, it really is great that there is such a social aspect, and there's park run and these sorts of things that mean running isn't just about competition. One really interesting fact before we jump into a combined physical performance round, guys. The Derry Marathon, Tommy, it as an event took a 29-year hiatus, and then you came back 29 years later, I believe, and technically you won 3 in a row because you'd won the 2 leading up to it, taking a hiatus, and then 29 years later you come back and win again. So what was your age when you won the second one, and then what was your age when you won the third one 29 years later?
So I was 24 when I won the first one, and 25 when I won the second one, and I was 53 when I won the third. So it's a long time for 3 in a row, but I don't think that's ever happened in the marathons anywhere in the world either.
No.
So it's funny.
That's amazing. You ran 2:30.32 at 53 years of age. What time did you run at 25 years of age in that race?
At 25, I broke the course record in 2:19. So that was last year.
It's incredible. In 30 years, it was only an 11-minute time difference. Absolutely remarkable.
One more stat. When I won the Belfast Marathon in 1998, I ran 2:23.33. And when I ran Frankfurt there, that was my fastest marathon in 31 years when I ran Frankfurt.
Wow. It's just, the stats are incredible, inspiring. You're listening to Guinness World Record holders for the combined marathon fastest time, Tommy and Eoin Hughes, on this, an interest edition of the Physical Performance Show. Today's episode is brought to you by PhysioCrem. PhysioCrem is a topical massage cream containing plant-based ingredients, ideal for the temporary relief of muscular aches and pains. If you're conscious of what you put on your body, you'll be happy to know that PhysioCrem does not contain parabens or hydroxybenzoates, and its non-greasy formula doesn't leave any sticky residue behind. PhysioCrem can be found Australia-wide at your local Coles, chemist or health store, as well as via their online shop. They've offered listeners of the show 20% off all products in the store. It's real simple. Use the coupon code POGO, P-O-G-O, when you shop at physiocrem.com.au. That's FISIOCREM.com.au to redeem this special offer. Hurting sucks and PhysioCrem have got your back. Today's episode is also brought to you by Pogo Physio. We exist to help you get back to your physical best following injury. We want everyone who walks through the doors of Pogo Physio to complete their rehabilitation, get back to their physical best, and in doing so, cross your physio finish line. Our philosophy is very simple. We do not want to see you for a session more than what you require or a session less. We just want to ensure you get back to your best and doing the things that you love to do. To find out more about Pogo Physio's award-winning services, including our 1-hour initial appointment or our popular online physiotherapy telehealth sessions, jump over to pogophysio.com.au. For now, let's jump back with father and son Tommy and Eoin Hughes on this, an interest edition around all things lifelong running and the multifold benefits of that approach. Guys, let's do a physical performance round of rapid fire questions, and then we'll throw to some learnings, including Tommy's secrets to longevity in running. So let's alternate. Are we ready to go? The training session, this one's for Eoin. The training session you most dislike?
Shorter track reps.
Tommy, the training session you most love?
I love going out on a Sunday morning, doing a long run at a steady to hard pace, getting back, getting my porridge, and sitting back and watching sport on TV.
Haha, brilliant. You know, I just thought of something. It might actually be fun to contrast father and son. So I'm going to throw these questions back to the other sides here. Eoin, training session you most love?
I like mile repeats. I like K repeats and mile repeats. Longer reps, should I say.
And Tommy, Marrakesh Express, training session you most dislike?
Well, it's always been the shorter, faster races and training. And so as soon as I step on the track, it's hard work for me. So I'm a marathon runner. In my head, I've always been a marathon runner, and that's what's got me through all my life, is being a marathon runner. And I use shorter races to get the speed work, and I'd rather race at the weekend than do a track session, you know, where I wouldn't push myself to the limits where I would in a race. So I use the shorter races towards getting fit for my marathon. But it's always a marathon at the end of the day.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting insight. Favourite pre-race meal, Eoin, and then Tommy?
Spaghetti bolognese.
I would be the same. I like my spaghetti and I like pasta, so no problem there.
Who is the athlete you most admire and why?
My dad, for obvious reasons.
Well, I have to say it's John Tracy, who won the silver medal at the Los Angeles Olympics for Ireland in the marathon in 1984. And I remember watching that race, and John, he ran a brilliant race. He won the silver medal. Then I got to meet him in the 1992 lead up to the Olympics there, and he is sound, down-to-earth guy. So, John Tracy.
Is there a mantra that you use when you race or compete?
Not really. The only thing I would say is I struggle more in the middle of a race. So I would do a wee bit more talking to himself, just come on, get back into the stride, that sort of thing, but no real mantra.
I thought you might have said, beat my dad, beat my dad, beat my dad.
He can't beat me. He can beat me everywhere except the marathon.
And Tommy, mantra?
Yeah, well, mine is I train hard, not to the full extent, but as soon as I stand on a start line it's everything in as much as I have on that particular day. It's everything. If I'm not, I won't be happy if I've left someone out on the race. So that's my mantra. Just switch to race mode.
Best recovery tip, Eoin, than Tommy?
Sleep. Have a nap.
How do you manage that with 3 children?
With great difficulty. Get them to school.
Yeah, great. And Tommy?
I just easy running straight after a marathon. Just keep going. You know, I've run 60, 70 miles this week, so it's just a matter of keeping the legs turning over, and it all depends. Like, really, you have to listen to your body at the end of the day. If the body's crying out for rest, you have the rest. You know, so. If the body says it's okay to train away, it's okay. You know, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, wow, so much there. And clearly you're getting it right. One word to describe your racing style. Eoin?
Frequent.
Tommy?
Determined.
How would you describe being in the zone, Eoin?
Just good, steady pace and feeling like it's easy.
Tommy?
Blinkers on and just keep going, and especially a marathon where you just have to get into a rhythm, hold that rhythm as much as you can, do not deviate from it, so you have to allow for the second half of the race because it's so long a race.
When was the last time you were in the zone?
Probably I did the Stirling 10k about a month ago, and just everything went right and my pace was steady from start to finish. My splits were 100%, just bang on. Felt great.
And I would say the Frankfurt Marathon.
Yeah, beautiful. Gentlemen, last question in the performance round. What's the hardest session you've ever done?
I tried to do a longer marathon session about 6 weeks back, just building into it and finishing off at marathon pace, and for whatever reason, I still don't know, I just struggled that day and wasn't able to finish the session. So I actually had to take my sister to the airport, and I was in the middle of nowhere, and I was just struggling to get home on time. So it was just a bad day.
And Tommy?
I have to say any track work is the hardest for me because I haven't got the same speed in my legs that I used to whenever I was young. So I know it's a benefit to do the hard training, but it's tough for an old man like myself.
Steady up. And what might a track session look like for you at 59 years of age in January, turning 60?
Usually, 400s, 1Ks,
100s.
With about 2 to 3 minutes recovery from that. But it's not a thing that I do very often, but I need to do it, that way.
Well done, guys. You're out of the performance round. And it would be remiss of me, Tommy, to not ask for your top 3 longevity tips. We've had some remarkable runners share their longevity tips over the course of the podcast to date. Meb Klevetsky, John Shaw, an Australian veteran world record holder, and the likes of Bernard Lagat. So let's add to that Tommy Hughes's top 3 longevity tips.
Well, I have to say, first of all, to listen to your body is the main one. And I would say for the older generation, just get a checkup from your doctor as well, a blood check and all, because when I had that parathyroidism, I didn't know I had it till I got the blood check, and it showed up in that, and I never went near a doctor. I never went to doctors at all till that happened, and it was great to get diagnosed from that because I struggled with a lot of different things in my life, like the alcohol abuse and tiredness and depression, and it was all coming from that parathyroid gland. So to find that out and get that sorted and move on for me was brilliant for me. And really, the other thing I would say about longevity is enjoying it. You have to enjoy it or you'll not do it. So you have to, whatever way you go about it, to enjoy yourself in athletics or whatever sport you're in. So it's for people to just enjoy themselves.
So the top 3 tips from Tommy Hughes: listen to your body, get a checkup with your doctor, and enjoy it. And you mentioned your alcoholism at one point there, Tommy, and Eoin. You mentioned that prior to starting your now competitive running years, you were smoking and drinking. one thing jumps out there is, isn't the body remarkable with how resilient it is, and it can, if you like, clean up some of those former habits?
That is correct, and definitely it's a wonderful thing, the body. And as I say, I've been working for years as well as a full-time electrician and eating kebabs and actually smoking myself and drinking every night, working away from home, and then come back and start running these times again. The body is unbelievable, so never give up on your body and never give up on yourself.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Because how many years out did you have? And you got pretty low with the alcohol, I guess you'd call it abuse there at one point, true?
Yeah, that's true. Like it was a kind of working away from home. It was a social thing where everybody was having a pint after work and all the rest, but it got hold of me and it got control of me, and it nearly killed me. It nearly killed me. 2 years ago, I was drinking a bottle of vodka every day for 3 months, and that's when I was diagnosed. That's when I got the blood test done, because I was nearly dead at the time, and I came back from that. So I've learnt a lot from that. And maybe some people say, well, you know, is it too late to learn? But it's never too late to learn. You can rise up from that and move on and move forward, and I have moved forward. So this is the result from moving forward.
You're listening to Guinness World Record holders Tommy and Eoin Hughes on this An Interest edition of the show. If you missed last week's episode, it was a featured performer episode featuring ultra trail running star and UK sensation Tom Evans. It's been incredibly popular. Tom shared so articulately and insightfully around the highs, lows and learnings of his career to date. Here is a snippet of that conversation.
So visualization, I used to visualize having the perfect race and would visualize myself, everything going perfectly, crossing the line first, nothing goes wrong. There's no such thing as a perfect build-up. There's no such thing as a perfect race. Something is going to happen that you weren't expecting. So ultra running is all about problem solving, and can you reduce and can you minimize damage when something starts going wrong? And when you bonk, which you are going to bonk in a 100-mile race, how quickly can you stay composed, and then can you get yourself out of it? Because you know the people in front of you are going to bonk at some point, and the people behind you you're the one who's got to be in control.
To tune into the full archives of the show, including episode 187 featuring New York Times best-selling author Christy Ashwindon, author of Good to Go, How to Eat, Sleep and Rest Like a Champion, jump over to wherever it is that you enjoy the show from and enjoy the highs, lows and learnings of the featured guests. For now, let's jump back with Irish running sensations Tommy and Eoin Hughes, Irish running sensations, on this An Interest edition on all things pursuing your best across a lifetime of running.
Let's have one single piece of advice you'd issue to listeners of this show, each to help them perform and pursue their own physical best, before we throw into the physical performance challenge of the week. So, Eoin?
Well, the best bit of advice I've got from my dad, and what's seen me improve so much recently, is consistency. So whereas maybe 3 years ago I was running maybe 50 mile one week, 20 mile one week, 70 mile the next week, I've learned to get that consistency now. So it's 70 miles, if it's going to be 70 miles a week, I'll be 70 miles every week, 80 miles every week, whatever it is, whatever I'm training for. But consistency is a massive, massive key.
Consistency. And Tommy?
Well, a lot of people these days are addicted to their watches. So I think if people could just take the watch off and run for a week and just listen to their body and see how it goes from there, and see what it feels like to run without a watch. I would say that. Because
you really have run just to feel, from what I gather, the bulk of your adult running life. Do you run with data these days, or are you still just running by feel? I run by feel all the time, because I love my music, so I used to play a bit of drums and all. So in my head, it's just a drum beat and music going along, and get into a rhythm. And but you have to train to get into that rhythm and keep it at that rhythm. But that's basically what marathon running, any running's about, getting into a fast rhythm and keeping it to the finishing line without deviating. But sometimes in the shorter races, you have to up your pace and slow your pace type of thing. So that's when the track work comes in as well. But for marathon running,
is just get into rhythm and go with it. You notice the Kenyans, when they race, they'll not race until about the last mile or so. They'll all be together. Well, some will drop off before that, but it's always about 3 or 4 running in the last mile, and that's when the race starts for them. So they'll get into a rhythm and they'll keep it going, and people will drop off because they're not as fit as the one. But there was 3 or 4 always at the end that will sprint basically to win the race. So it's get into a rhythm.
And did you use a Garmin or device when you ran 2:27.52 5 days ago at 59 years of age, Tommy?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
okay.
Well, I use it in a race.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
Sometimes you have to read the data, but not all the time. If you're out training, just listen to your body.
Yeah, top tips there, gentlemen. Consistency and running without your watch and learning to really tune into your body and rhythm. Gentlemen, finally, every guest, in this case guests of the Physical Performance Show, issue listeners with a physical challenge for the week. So what are the Hughes men? What is the physical challenge to listeners for the week going to be?
I don't know. Really, I think the park runs are absolutely brilliant. And I have to say the physical challenge is just keep people to have a park run, and then for people just to keep improving and enjoying it, really. At the end of the day, it's all about enjoyment, no matter what.
Owen?
Maybe get out for a run with your mum or your dad or your son or your daughter, just as we're a family running together. Just, if possible, get out with your mum or dad, take them out, even if it's for a run walk. Just get them out, get everybody out together.
Yeah, so beautiful. And I can really see an interest being spawned through this story of listeners with, hey, let's set a combined time in an upcoming event. It'd be great to see you both down under at the Gold Coast Marathon maybe in the coming years, looking to better further records.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant. I love that.
Well, let's see. Well, gentlemen, you're 5 days post. Well done on a huge achievement. Congratulations. What a great story. And thank you for sharing it with listeners and myself on this show.
Thank you very much, Brad. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having us on.
So there you have it, another episode of the Physical Performance Show, and I trust and I hope that you enjoyed today's episode, an interest edition featuring Tommy and Eoin Hughes. What an incredible tale that the gentlemen have. And I hope, like myself, you're inspired to continue to pursue and perform your best across a lifetime of sporting activity, in this case, running. You can find Owen's social media handles over at _EOIN.Hughes, HUGHES. Do reach out and let Eoin know what it was that you enjoyed about today's sharings with he and his incredible father. Just recently, Eoin himself ran a 5KB, running a very swift 15:09, and his father, Tommy, there's no stopping him at 59 years of age, running an incredible 16:13 for another age group world record. A massive thanks to those leaving ratings and reviews for the show. It's always so great to get the feedback. A big shout out and thank you this week to Luke Mack 86, who rated the show 5 stars over on iTunes and commented, "Great insight from so many great guests. Clint Kimmins, Mark Allen and Dr. Joe was simply amazing." Luke, thank you for taking the time to stop by iTunes and leave that review. If you've been enjoying the show and would like to rate or review the show, that would be incredibly appreciated. And don't forget, if you've been enjoying several episodes, to hit subscribe to ensure the show lands in your feed each and every Thursday as the episodes go live. A massive thank you, as always, to the great folk who make this show possible. Daryl Misson, our audio engineer, Susan Wilkin on all things show administration, Matthew Olding, all things show graphic design, and Oliver Crossley assisting behind the scenes. Another massive thank you to today's sponsor. Podcasts are free to download, however, they are not free to produce, and PhysioCrem, your support is so greatly appreciated. Don't forget to take advantage of the fantastic PhysioCrem products, the cream of choice at Pogo Physio, by jumping over to PhysioCrem, FISIOCREM.com.au to redeem 20% off all products. It is annual feedback time. So, to go into the draw to win a $50 Amazon gift card. It's simple. We'd love to know what it is that you're enjoying about the show, what could be improved, what ratio of expert additions to featured performers, etc. you would like to hear. Simply jump over to pogophysio.com.au/podcast and hit the big green button at the bottom, which says let us know what you think of the show. Don't forget to keep the podsies coming. That's simply a screenshot of the episode that you've been enjoying at any given moment and tagging in the show at Physical Performance Show over on Instagram, or myself at Brad_beer over on Instagram or Twitter. Now, coming up on next week's episode of the Physical Performance Show, following the great interest in episode 187 featuring New York Times best-selling author Christy Ashwinden's book Good to Go around all things the strange science of recovery and what every athlete can learn from it, we felt it was timely to continue the conversation around recovery. And in Good to Go, Christy Ashwinden cites the work of Australian senior physiologist, 16 years at the Australian Institute of Sport, director of the Australian Olympic Committee's Recovery Centre for the 2008, 12 and 2016 Olympic Games, Shona Halson. Christy describes Shona as the world's leading expert on recovery, who knows the recovery literature inside and out, having been a leading contributor to the body of research and having 15 years plus experience in applying the science to athletes. And that is the featured guest on next week's episode, Shona Halson, Associate Professor, Australian Catholic University, Senior Physiologist. And this is a further deep dive into the conversation around athlete recovery. We further the conversation that was had with Christy Ashwinden on episode 187, and we further deep dive around the proven effects of sleep monitoring athlete mood, periodizing recovery, how recreational athletes can monitor their own recovery status, and so much more. It's a fascinating conversation you are not going to want to miss. Until then, keep pursuing your own physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.